First story. I, 27M, just found out that my girlfriend, 29F, had been cheating on me for over a month on my birthday and claims to have done it since she had no choice. Hi Reddit. I'd like to apologize for a potentially long post. I haven't had proper sleep in a few days since I first learned of this, and I'm so exhausted and tired that I might end up ranting. I would also like to preface this that I have not been the best boyfriend as of late, but with me struggling with depression and anxiety after being unemployed for a while now, but I never once thought of cheating on her. I suppose I'll start off on that. Last February, I got sworn in as licensed professional teacher in my country. As a professional, I have a better edge on the job market, or so I thought. After spending the whole of March sending 20-30 applications per day to work in the government for better job security, I either ended up getting ghosted, or only received an automated response email with no updates after that. This of course led to my mental health declining rapidly as I began to wonder whether studying for my licensure exam was all useless. Every day until April, I spent hours on the computer job hunting and sending applications, that by the end of the day, I was just exhausted and over it. My girlfriend on the other hand was very lively and wanted to talk, or even teased me about silly things. At any other time, I would have playfully teased her back, but when she did it during that time, with my patience running thin, we ended up arguing more often than not. We had a date at the end of April where I told her everything that was bothering me and I broke down. She comforted me for a while, reassured me that she was there for me, and we ended up having sex after. This one I felt was different from all our previous ones, unfortunately. She did not want to cuddle after our first round and seemed to be in a hurry, and was urging me to shower since she had already showered first. This was strange since we always showered together after cuddling for a while, but now we did it separately. I pointed this out to her, and she ended up making up for it by going for a second round with me, and I thought I was just overthinking it. Come dinner time, while we were eating, I was talking to her about some random stuff when she picked up her phone and started chatting with someone, even smiling and laughing at one point when what I was saying wasn't particularly amusing. I felt miffed, and even cut my story mid-sentence to see if she was paying attention. She wasn't, and didn't even notice that I didn't finish my story. I pointed out her behavior that day a few days later in May, and she apologized for this, and I thought that was the end of it. By this point, it was May, and even more of my applications were getting ghosted. My mental health was in absolute shambles, and I ended up reaching out to a mental health doctor a couple of times as I completely saw no way out to this. By this time, my girlfriend had grown super distant. We used to text each other good morning, good night messages, and she used to get huffy if we accidentally missed greeting each other. She claims that she didn't want us to argue whenever she tried teasing me, so she reduced our messages sent to each other, even missing the aforementioned good morning, good night texts. By mid-May, I was starting to have suspicions of her cheating, when she changed her Discord status to contain quotes of falling in love again, when we hadn't even talked to each other in a while. Again, I talked to her about this, and even brought up how she seems to have fallen in love with someone new, because how could she have fallen in love again, when we hadn't talked with each other in a while? She got angry about this and told me to not accuse her of anything that she didn't do, and she's at the age where she doesn't want to play any more games and wants to settle with only one. I decided to trust her, because you should give your partner the benefit of the doubt, right? Still, I had my suspicions in the back of my mind as her sleeping schedule changed completely. She'd wake up 4 hours until after I've already been awake, and would sleep later than I did. Still, I decided not to bring this up despite all the non-greetings. Near the end of May, we seemed to have rekindled our passion and desire to see each other, even sexting a few times, and agreed to meet on the 30th of May for a date and sex after. I told her to set an alarm as I wanted our date to be fun if we could spend the whole day together. Unfortunately, on the 30th of May, I got stood up on our date. She woke up completely late, which at that point, a date wasn't feasible. She apologized once and said that she woke up late because she was tired from moving to a cheaper apartment, which was true. Though she didn't seem to think that it was a big deal, even though it was for me. As we hadn't seen each other for over a month at that point and had barely talked all throughout May, I eventually let her off the hook. Fast forward to 3 days ago, the 19th of June. It was my birthday, so she wanted to, of course, come celebrate it with me and my family. We head to a hotel's restaurant, and she's having fun talking with my elder sister and my nephew, and she gives me her phone. By this point, the suspicion of cheating was incredibly strong in the back of my mind. And after she gave me her phone to keep in my bag, I excused myself to the bathroom, and in a moment of weakness, I decided to go through her phone and went on Discord to read her DMs. I first noticed that my DMs with her were muted for notifications, which already hurt me. I looked at the other DM previews, and one surprised me. It was a DM thread with someone of the username Raven. It was from her, telling someone "love, I miss you," or something along those lines. Honestly, I can't remember, as I was much too shocked. I opened that DM thread. I found out that after we had talked the night before my birthday, when she claimed to have gone to work, she was actually chatting with this Raven guy from somewhere in the United States. I told her before I went to sleep that I wanted her to greet me first on my birthday as like a playful thing. Since that's what I did for her birthday, unfortunately, midnight passed, and she did not in fact greet me, but instead chatted with Raven until the wee hours of the morning, and only greeted me a happy birthday at 8 a.m. But only after she had greeted Raven a good morning first, and even voice chatted with him for a while. By this point, my brain had sort of short-circuited, and I couldn't bear reading all the details. My hands were shaking terribly, but I had to know more. I opened the media tab of their DMs, and the worst thing I imagined came to pass. She had sent him multiple nudes of herself. By this point, my stomach started to ache. I wanted to vomit, but I had to confirm this. I jumped to the messages she sent. She mentioned how much she wanted to have sex with him, and he responded in kind. She had sent him so many nudes and updates throughout May, while I was getting no messages, nothing. My mind was desperate at this point. Surely this was just sexual, right? Honestly, I didn't know what my mind was thinking, as even if it were only sexual, it was still cheating. So I checked to see if she had mentioned that she loved him and scrolled to the first time she sent that message. She had asked him to be her boyfriend on the 10th of May. She asked if she could love him. And he said yes. She told him she loved him and wished for him to be inside her. She also pointed out to Raven about how I was kind of a loser, and how I couldn't even properly treat her on her birthday since I was broke at the time, and agreed with Raven about how I was a bum and a loser. She also claimed that I hadn't talked to her in about 5 months, even though we had seen each other last April. And he told her that I was probably either dead or fucking someone behind her back, and she agreed. She also told him that she didn't know how to break up with me. By this point, I couldn't breathe. I could feel my whole world crumbling down. Remembering advice, I took screenshots on her phone, intending to send as much proof as I can to my email, so that she'd be unable to deny it. Unfortunately, her gallery was also locked by a passcode I did not know, so I was unable to access these screenshots. I also realized that I've been gone for a while and she'd probably get suspicious, so I returned to our table, pretending that nothing was going on. I then instead took pictures of the chats, even a couple of videos. It didn't detail everything, because she had hundreds of thousands of messages to him at this point, but considerable enough proof. I then asked if I could talk to her in private and confronted her about it. She started crying and said that she did it because she didn't want to be a burden to me anymore after she saw my mental health declining and sought a connection with someone else. She also stated that by May, she didn't have any food to eat after recent family emergencies had drained her savings, and that was the reason why she was also moving apartments. I was in so much pain that I had actually vomited the dinner I just had. She was crying really badly and begged me to stay. I was in so much pain, yet I respected her enough to hear her out. You're probably thinking that I'm being stupid, and I admit, I am. I just love and respect her too much that while I also trust her in saying that she did it for the money, I'm also unable to trust her and don't know if what she's telling me is true, or what she told him was true. Because the way she confessed to him was 99.9% the same way she confessed to me. After we fought the whole night over text, she begged to come to my place to work at the new job she got hired in. As she had to work from home that day, and her new apartment hadn't had any internet yet, she once again clarified how she did it all for money, and once she noticed that what she was doing wasn't good, she immediately started looking for a job, and realized that she couldn't do what she was doing with Raven forever. She told me that she had to lead him on so he would pay her. The problem is, when I'm with her physically, my inner child comes out and I just want to stay with her, as all my worries vanish away. She apologized sadly again as she saw me crying and held me in her arms. We had sex after almost 2 months and for a while I felt completely at ease. Except when she left, all those negative images and messages I've read started bouncing around in my head. I alternated between crying or being angry at her. She offered to give me her passwords to everything so I can monitor them, except her Discord, where she's talking with Raven. She said she wants to end things properly with him first because she got value off of his money. Today, after finishing my 4th appointment with my doctor, I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety and PTSD from this most recent event. Now honestly, I'm wondering whether I should try and work it out with her or leave her. I want both, yet not at the same time, and I honestly feel very lost. Well, she claims she did it out of desperation since she wasn't able to eat. I can't forget how she bad-mouthed me, told false stories and called me a loser. Now I also don't know whether her confession to me back then was real, as it was her same exact confession to Raven. Even until now, I'm pretty sure she's still talking with him as she doesn't get paid in her new job until mid-July. I'm struggling to know what is real and what is not. She claims that she wants to make amends and do anything to prove it. But it also seems that she thinks that I should be over it because she says that she's only leading Raven on. Every day for me is a struggle ever since. I even had a fever last night after having 2 days of no sleep and us arguing again. At this point, I would appreciate everyone's point of view and/or advice, because I'm so tired and I feel like I'm slowly descending into madness. Second story. My new manager, who is also married, tried to sleep with me. Okay, so I just started a new job a couple weeks ago in sales. We have multiple different PMs that supervise different areas of sales. I'm still in training, so I don't even have a PM yet. But on my very first day at this job, one of the PMs, let's call him Jay, kind of singled me out from the rest of the trainees. Now I'm not going to lie here, Jay is an attractive man 35, and I am a 22-year woman. I've already had a really bad experience with messing around with a boss before, so to say the least I was definitely a bit hesitant to him flirting with me. For the first 2 days he would come up and talk to me out of the 7 other trainees and no one else. I could tell that everyone was kind of noticing this, but no one said anything. On day 3 he waited until I was walking out of the building and asked for my number. He also tried to get me to come over, saying he was gonna watch some basketball game and he had a bottle of tequila. I declined the offer, but I did give him my number. We began texting a bit daily. Red flags were popping up everywhere for me. but I was still kind of just feeling him out lol. He'd still come up and talk to me at work, but through text he was saying things like 35 isn't too old, is it? Or when I brought up that he was a manager, and I didn't want to do anything that would jeopardize my job, he said nothing wrong with being friends, right? So you understand the vibes he was giving off. By the end of the week he asked for my Snapchat because he wanted to be more discreet. I agreed and gave him mine, and saw when he added me that he had just made that account specifically for texting me because he only had a Snap score of 1. This was where I started to suspect he might be in a relationship. He had told me he had a 2-year-old, but he hadn't said anything about the baby mom, and I had just kind of taken him at face value. I know, stupid, right? But right before the weekend we played 21 questions where the questions got pretty dirty. I again told him that I wasn't planning on sleeping with him, but he seemed like he thought he could convince me, and honestly he was right. But when the weekend came he stopped responding to me. Throughout the whole weekend he did not text once until Monday when he got to work. That put me on red alert, cause who doesn't have time to text on the weekend? Anyway, this past Wednesday I finally got my answer. I was doing my work when I overheard a conversation he was having with a co-worker. She had asked him when his baby was due, which he said September. When I tell you I was flabbergasted. As soon as I got the chance I brought it up to him to see what he'd say, and again, he said yes, he was having a baby. But he didn't say one word about the woman who was going to give birth to his baby. At that point I was done completely. He texted me after work about it and I made it clear that I did not want to talk to him anymore because I knew he was in a relationship. At that point he didn't deny it, he just accepted it and we moved on. Well, it's been bothering me a lot. I keep on thinking about his poor girlfriend sitting at home, pregnant with his child while he's out here trying to have sex with someone over a decade younger than him. So finally today I looked him up and found out he got married last year in July. So now not only is he out in the streets while his wife is about to have a baby, but they're literally about to celebrate their 1-year anniversary. I really couldn't believe it. This is exactly why I have trust issues. Part of me wants to go tell her husband is out here doing her dirty. But I also don't want to do anything that might make me lose my job, so I'm telling you all instead. The nerve of men. Third story. Ex-wife left me for another man. About a year ago I was on top of the world. Loving wife, chill job, lots of good friends and family. My awesome rock band had finally gotten the attention and recognition we deserved and were slated to go on a European tour. As the time for touring drew nearer, I was practicing, and my then wife was attempting to save money so she could go to our Lisbon show. She had long been obsessed with the Portuguese language and culture, so it was a double whammy. She could come check us out and also spend time in Portugal, absorbing the environment and practicing her Portuguese. She was unable to save up because she's always had severe depression and unexplained seizures, so I lent her the money for a round-trip flight. Her ability to work was diminished, but I had long suspected that her health concerns were a bit overblown, and that she had often used them as an excuse to play hooky. She called in at least weekly, if not twice a week, and I had never actually seen her actually seize up, but once in our 5 years together. Fast forward to the tour. We were in Madrid the night before our Lisbon show, and she was getting drunk with some people she had met out there. I was fine with that as I had never been controlling or any of that. I trusted her completely. We talked a bit on the phone, and she seemed weird about my needing to end the call and handle band-related issues. She then went silent for the rest of the night. We arrived in Lisbon the next afternoon, and I was able to meet up with her to hang out and watch some of the bands on the festival together. It was a good time. The next day she showed up to watch us play, and something had upset her about me not being able to hang out with her as much. I explained that I was on tour and my main focus had to be the band. We had been hanging out anyway and I figured that this was understood. After we had gotten off the stage, I called her, and she was acting super agitated but wouldn't tell me why. She kind of started a fight with me without actually telling me what was wrong. Nothing congratulatory or anything, just her being vaguely upset with me. She didn't pick up her phone for the rest of the night, even though I tried to call and text. We left Portugal the next morning for Italy and continued the tour. Fast forward to about 2 months later. She was constantly texting with this Portuguese guy she had met when she was out there. They were sending memes back and forth and gaming online together quite a bit. She had always had male friends, and I was totally cool with it, but this one was obviously different. She would tilt her phone away from me when they texted, and she would always grab it when she needed to leave the room, even if just to go pee. I expressed my concern over her growing connection with this guy, and she shrugged it off as though I was paranoid and controlling. Like I didn't trust her. This continued for months as I tried to ignore the gnawing feeling in my gut that this guy was obviously more than just a friend. This was a textbook emotional affair. As she grew more connected to him, she grew steadily less invested in me. We kept having sex, but there was something missing. I tried and tried to ignore her friendship until I couldn't any longer. Our marriage broke down. We filed for divorce. She was kind enough to not take any of my assets, which I was thankful for, and the paperwork was filled amicably. A week after we had filed the papers, she had somehow acquired a ticket to Portugal. He had no doubt bought it for her. While she was out there, she changed her relationship status to in a relationship with, you guessed it, that fucking guy. She hadn't yet moved out, so when she returned, I was obviously like, see, I told you so. She claims that when we were together they were just friends, and now that we're divorced she's allowed to be with whoever the fuck she wants. Totally justified in her brain. She even called me stupid for suspecting what had obviously just happened. She eventually moved out. I stopped being sad about the whole ordeal, but I can't stop being angry. Not sure what my question is, but I just wanted to put this story out there. Curious to see what this community has to say. Fourth story. Peaceful separation with my wife plus kids, roller coaster feelings. So Wimma Guy 29Y has been with my wife for 7.5 years. We got 2 boys, 6Y and 3.5Y, and married each other after the first one. We have always had very open and honest conversations. The truth was always important for us, and we used to spend a lot of time together. Me, being a programmer, work 3 days a week from home, and her just starting to look for a non-full-time job. We also spent a lot of time together throughout the day, not just after work evenings like most couples around us. 2 years ago we moved from a city to this little hut in a little village, for which we took a mortgage and live in now. Last year, we made friends with another couple nearby. Really enjoyed being together. They also got 2 kids and overall have similar values and views on life. My wife found out she started to feel something to the male of this couple. Being honest, she told me right after she realized this. She also opened the topic with him, and the feelings were reciprocated. At that point, nothing happened yet. They spent time together, talked about stuff, and felt good during that. We have decided that it's a good idea to open the topic together with all 4 of us. I didn't feel hurt or cheated on. I was glad she told me and put myself in a position of somewhat of a spectator. She also didn't want to bluntly follow all of her feelings, because she didn't want to hurt me, but time went on. This was about 3 weeks ago, and she told me she feels like she wants to follow those feelings and explore that. This topic, simultaneously and obviously, opened few skeletons in the closet. Meaning we started talking about what doesn't work between us. It was not, and I still don't see it like that, as this other man filled a void between us. More like we had a solid base with some issues we finally were able to name, plus, and this time, this other man shuffled her feelings. This has been going on for 3 weeks, and throughout those, we discussed it and slowly decided to separate. It's still all very peaceful, Both of them care about me and always confirming about my own feelings over all of this. Even though it's all quite fast and heavy topic, I cannot imagine it happening more smoothly and with respect. The situation when so falls in love with someone else, for the first time, or after very long time, I felt like I don't need to clinch on that for all cost. I'm very nice guy type of person, always going little over my own edge to do good for others, and it's an issue I'm trying to overcome for years. And it feels great telling myself that I can let her go and feel happy about what might come for myself after this. I started to look forward to the free time. The other couple is already starting the divorce process. The women of the couple felt it as a treason and immediately wanted to shut everything down. We two don't really care about the legality or time of the separation. The evident reality is what matters. I'm sharing this here to get some stuff off my shoulders. I feel quite stoic about all of this. And I want you to know that I cared about her and loved her. It's not like I go easily through this because I won't care for her. But while it's easy, it's also hard. It's also stressful, and at times, memories, nostalgia, and the feeling of abandoning something we nourished for years is quite heavy. I feel happy for them, while at times, feel hurt. Rationally, it's happening peacefully and respectfully, but emotionally, it's quite a roller coaster. If I would also fell in love, it would be much easier. Thanks for reading and maybe telling me something empowering. I don't know, but feel slightly better right now after typing all of this. Fifth story. My ex GF21F brought another boy to our apartment and had sex with him in my bed. This is a long story, but I will try to keep it as brief as possible. My ex-21F is Japanese and was studying at my uni in Canada, where I 20 meters met her. We were 18-year-old first years, and she was living with her boyfriend. She had no friends because her boyfriend didn't let her leave their apartment alone and tracked her location. So I helped her escape him and she decided to be with me. Since her ex had trust and control issues, I told GF that I'd always trust her, and she should always go out alone and make new friends. But her dad died and mom lost job due to the pandemic, so she couldn't afford tuition or rent in Canada anymore. I didn't know this, so I got an apartment for us to split for our second year. When she returned to Canada, her mom texted me saying they can't afford tuition and by November, they couldn't pay rent and my parents covered it. By December, our relationship was a disaster. My GF lied, swearing she never had sex with her ex, also saying she deleted all pics with him on her phone. But she always hid her phone because she was embarrassed of her young pics. But really she kept the photos and their graphic of her and her ex in bed naked. She swears she forgot to delete those pics. I said extremely horrible and demeaning things to her which made her cry terribly, and I still regret to this day. We argued almost every day from then and I was verbally abusive. We fell into a depression and would just sleep, argue and have sex all day for months. It was extremely toxic. But in April, we both got into one of the best universities in Tokyo and I was excited to make a big change in my life. She went to Japan first and got our apartment ready for July, and I came in September after getting my visa. But my GF was extremely jealous by this point because she saw nudes from HS girls, porn and other weird things I said to girls when I was in HS from past DMs and porn I forgot to delete from my phone. She would always accuse me of liking other girls and make me specify features about them that were ugly. And also said she was so innocent compared to those girls. I would snap back saying she had sex with her ex, which she still denies, and the depression came back. In October, she locked me out of our apartment trying to blackmail me into blocking every girl I met on campus. I declined. So she broke up with me and said don't bring girls to our apartment. I was sad but focused on school, so I didn't think much and assumed we'd get together again, considering how possessive she was. But in December, I saw a pic of her with another guy. This guy was in their club, meaning they met in September, and that she was making friends with other guys while banning me from doing so. I freaked out and she said he's her new BF, and it was my fault for being so mentally abusive in the past, which I don't deny, suggesting me to move out ASAP. I find a dorm and am ready to move out, but in January she got back with me. We started having sex again. I returned to Canada in February, and when I left Japan, she cried so bad saying she didn't want to lose me and she loves me. So I choose to stay in our apartment as it's cheaper, and she agreed. In Canada, we still argued but said I love you every day, and my GF said only look at me and don't talk to other girls every day. By March, she went on her club trip to New York, and by then she barely spoke with me after we argued. I came back to Japan in April, and now it was just like it was in December, despite her telling me don't talk to girls, and I miss you just a week before my return. She had no time for me, no hugs, no kisses, nothing. Too busy. I massaged her, brought food, cleaned, did laundry, homework help, club help, etc., for her every day, hoping she would fall in love with me again. What did I do wrong? I wondered. On April 12th, we argued cause I told her I'd bring food after class, but since it rained I took too long and she stayed hungry. I said fuck because she was disappointed and it was like all my progress was undone, but she took it as me saying fuck you, and that was the end, I suppose. The next day, she asked me to bring a friend and starts pestering me to move out again, saying this is why I said we should live separately whenever I didn't want to leave so she can bring a friend. The whole April plus May, she booked me hotels because she was inviting a friend for the night. I totally trusted her. One day I laid down on my bed and found a condom wrapper, checked the trash and found the condom with the dude's semen in it. I confront her about it and say I'm leaving forever if she ever talks to him again. She says she didn't tell me because I would have freaked out and cried for hours because we have promises and dreams and doesn't want to lose me, swearing he couldn't put it inside and it was the first time he came over. So I relent and decide to let it go, because she's the only person I have in Japan. But then I see the intercom footage, showing the club guy arriving consistently over April and May. He even came on February, on the same day where my GF texted me, I love you and don't look at other girls. I cried more, but she said what happened is my karma for being abusive in the past. Then 1 week later, she bring him again, but I waited at the apartment to confront them. She made it out like I was an obsessive ex-BF who wouldn't leave. She yells I kept telling him you're not my BF and accused me of sexual assault to our neighbors. Her BF acts like he's protecting her. Then she calls the police and kicks me out of our apartment as I'm not on the contract. Following this, I blocked her on all social media and sent all the evidence to her mother. She contacted me on Facebook apologizing but said not sorry for other things. I didn't call the police, and he came in February cause he was worried how I was treating him. I didn't invite him to our apartment. Stop victimizing yourself. Well, okay, but if you didn't invite him, then how'd he know our address? I blocked her FB, and that's it. 2 years of my life down the goddamn drain. But I live in Japan now and have my own apartment, which is pretty sick.